Welcome to the Feel Better, Be Better show. Today, Kate and Nevada will answer your questions and introduce new topics designed to help feel better and be better. These are raw conversations, but they will make a difference.
All right, let's see. We're going to do the intro on this. So it was really easy. It was like one point we covered, right?
Yeah.
Let's see here. I pretty much talked the entire show. So, hey, you get to do the intro. Go for it.
And we talked about life lessons.
Mm-hmm.
How to teach kids, how our feelings are teaching them. In all the areas. Sports, finances, health.
Yeah, we're coming back for more.
Coming back for more. So we just hit the nail on the head a little bit.
Yeah, just a little tap, tap, tap-a-roo.
Yeah.
Enjoy. All right, so let's see here. Kind of a weird topic for me to talk about, I would think, on this show.
Okay.
I mean, we're going to do, some of the things that we see when we're coaching and around when we're dealing with some of the younger people we deal with and stuff like that. And it seems like, they're almost being pointed in like a direction that doesn't really end up making out to where I think doesn't feel like they're getting put in a direction that will be successful. And so, I mean, you can get into so many different pieces here, and I'm sure we'll go back and forth, but I think we'll just dive right into it. But I mean, kind of the sports thing. So we have all these youth sports, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, when you're looking at like 5, 6 year old, I mean, just roll the balls out and let them do whatever they're going to do. And I mean, honestly, I think it should almost be less structured than what we have. Because of that age, kids just play and just let them go.
When you're mostly building coordination more than anything.
Yeah, just how to work with people, coaches, parents, umpires, other kids,
Mm-hmm.
But then we get into like 8 and under.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the two different things. You can go like super competitive, travel the nation, play every single weekend and spend a ton of money. Or you could do like rec, where everybody gets a participant trophy and we're not supposed to keep score, but everybody keeps score. There's no middle anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So which areas of those do you want to hit on? We can go for a long time on that one. So
Pick which one.
I don't care. Pick one you want to go on first.
I asked you first.
Sure. Okay, fine. Participant trophy. Go.
Go? Oh, jeez.
I mean, I don't understand why you're playing the sport if you're not going to have a winner or loser. I understand that you don't want the kid to cry or be upset or whatever, but you got to teach kids how to handle defeat and how to handle success. I mean, both of those are things you got to learn in life.
I mean, even outside of sports, I think about when I've babysat other kids or been around like extended families, kids, or whatever. Have you ever played board games with little kids?
Yeah.
It's a rough experience because they're used to people letting them win all the time.
Well, yeah,
Because they're the little kid.
They try to change the rules.
Yeah. So I feel like that kind of plays into the same thing of, I know I could look back and count on probably, I know the wins that I've had that were super awesome, but I remember far less than the heartbreak loses that I had in games and learned a lot more lessons out of that.
Well, that's why, with my little nephew, when he was 5, he really liked playing basketball, but he wanted to play me in basketball. So every time he tried to shoot, I was like, swat it down. No. Okay,
maybe a little harsh.
Maybe not. But anyway.
I mean, I think there's a line to it. I think you can't just completely demoralize kids and put them in a situation where they're never going to have any success at all, because that doesn't teach anything either.
No.
But at the same time, if you let them just win all the time, or quote unquote win, we'll say fake win, you never learn how to lose. And you're gonna lose somewhere in life. It's inevitable. Nobody wins all the time.
Speak for yourself.
Mm-hmm. I knew you were gonna go there.
Yep, heck yeah.
Call BS on that.
I would too. I lose all the time. Prime example, last night I had one non-hit bet into the game for us to lose at the bottom of the inning. Yes. Every other hit probably wouldn't have mattered, but that hit kind of needed to have one. Loser. So there we go.
But yeah, I mean, so I feel like there's some merit to the idea of, maybe not putting all the focus on the score and domination and all of that. But at the same time, if you make it completely like it doesn't matter at all, and we're not even have winners and losers, then at the same time, you're not learning important skills from that either.
Well, I mean, we've talked forever about you learn in, that's the right word I'm looking for, not defeat, the when things don't work out your way or whatever. I mean, God, I can't think of the word. But anyway, you learn more when you lose on something. But when you got a little kid, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, they have to learn the other way. They also have to learn how to win. I mean, I see more nowadays with some of the people we play against that they've never learned how to even win.
Well, shoot, you can even look at our team that we transitioned from rec into competitive. They knew how to play well enough to be in the game, but they didn't know how to take it from anybody.
Yep.
They had to learn how to do that, and they're middle schoolers at that point. And I mean, you could sit back and, I mean, they had a pretty good track up to that point for the fact that they did well in rec, and they had good coaches who knew what they were talking about, and still didn't just have that know how to win instinct, or didn't learn it in the situation they were in.
No, they buckled under the pressure. I mean, whether it was on offense or defense, I mean, it was when it was on the line, they didn't know what to do. So, I mean, they just hadn't been pressed enough. I think we'll see that change this year because they have been pressed enough.
Yeah.
But that again, I mean, so you got to learn that pressure. I mean, learning to lose gracefully is also a strategy that you have to win. So you have to learn sometime. But the other thing I think of all the time, though, when you see people that do win, it's almost like they don't know what to do. They spent their entire lives based on the fact that the win is everything. I mean, we've seen guys take out girls on the base pass because they don't know how to not like get it out. And of course, they're coming off the field going like, well, she shouldn't be the base pass. And you're like, co-ed, rec, softball, girls never played, literally had to get her out to be able to make the game. Sorry about that. You know, run around them.
Know the rules.
Yeah, run around them, whatever, but you just can't. The only thing they know is just like, well, I shouldn't have to do that because that's what that's how you got to win. You know, I mean, we've almost programmed them that that's the only way to go. And then you see them also when they do win. I mean, they're, people that are still talking trash as they're winning. It's like, dude, you already beat them. Now you have to beat them down.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not only do you beat them on the scoreboard, you're beating them in their heart and soul as well.
Yeah.
That's just nuts. I mean, where do you stop at? I mean, you're gonna go home and criticize them there too, or something? I don't know. It gets interesting.
Yeah. Well, and again, everybody wins and loses. So why do you got to make it personal? You just happen to win that day. Take it and move on.
Yeah.
You happen to lose that day. Take it and move on.
Well, it cracks me up. So all those leagues, they're just like, yeah, we don't keep score. We're just working on playing and stuff like that. Even the kids know what the score is.
Yeah, that makes me laugh because Harper's soccer team, preschool and kindergarten, 4 and 5-year-olds, and they, without even any prompting, will be a couple scores into the game and they're like, what's the score? I don't know. Which honestly I usually don't because I'm like, I don't keep track. I just know somebody's probably winning over the other person by how it's going. But like, I got other things to worry about where you all are at than what the score is. But I mean, they instinctively know, like, what is the score? Are we winning?
Yeah, nothing. At that age group, when I grew up, I mean, don't get me wrong, we had those sports, but they were tied into school. Parents weren't around. You just played. You just had fun and you played and you tried things, and yeah, there was probably some fights on the playground or somebody probably did something they shouldn't have done, but I mean, you learned how to deal with people. We definitely don't have that now. I mean, that would be it. My Lord, probably hit like every front page of every website on the planet. It'd be like somebody had kids unattended playing a game and got in a fist fight.
Mob of kids.
Pretty much, yeah. It'd probably be like, we'd have to create whole new laws for it and people would go to jail and stuff. Yeah, it'd be crazy. So, I don't know. I can understand the absolute desire to be there and see every single practice and every single minute of every single game of every single practice and everything for your kid. I don't have one, so it's hard for me to totally understand that full drive, but I'm gonna have to fight myself like crazy when and if I do have kids, that I'm gonna be like, I gotta go let them do them. I'm gonna let them go figure out on their own.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's hilarious because I mean, again, coaching 12 to 14-year-olds, and I'll have parents who come up and like let me know, hey, I gotta run off to go do such and such errand, I'll be back, but I'll be around. I'm like, I don't keep track of whose parents stay and don't, as long as they're here to pick their kid up at the end.
God, you really should like just have a pin on you and be like, oh, okay, I got it, and just watch them go like.
I just love how they say that like I keep track, like a head count of who's out on the side of the field. Like, I mean, I guess it's nice to know if a kid gets hurt, like, oh, their parents not here, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't pay attention to that. Sorry, like, I mean, I pay a lot of attention to a lot of other things, but
it is nice that they let you know. But at the same side, I'd kind of almost be like, no, I'd almost rather you come back later. I mean, your kid's going to lose all their pressure. They're going to be themselves. They're going to learn their own thing or whatever. I mean, I'm not saying that I think every parent should just drop them off and walk away, but it's it's just one of those things where we almost don't even allow them to be learning on their own on that one. At least that's what I see in most of the ages we do. And then I look back even when I was, 12U, 14U and stuff like that, where mom and dad didn't make every game. They made a lot of them, but they didn't make every game.
Yeah, I remember distinctively when my parents would ship me off with somebody else for the weekend for a tournament because they couldn't be there.
Yeah.
And you were just part of another person's family for the weekend. And it was fine. It wasn't a big deal. Like,
no, that was normal.
Yeah.
I remember hitching rides with other parents to go to practice. I mean, it was just one of those things where it was almost like the parents even worked a little more together on like, hey, we got to get these kids over to here, so what can we do to make it work for everybody? And make it easier on everybody, because we got to do work and take care of cooking and cleaning and all the other things we got to do to take care of the kids. And now it just seems kind of more like we're also cornered off in our own little world that we don't even know what to do.
Yeah.
With thousands of things going on. Thank God we have the internets on our phones and everything. So, yeah.
So what other feelings you got?
Well, I mean, that's the younger ones. I mean, I think the other one too that I really like, I try to watch myself really good is when you're talking to kids, and I know you've seen this one a long time, plenty of times with me, is we're so used to kids asking us questions as adults. Where are we going here? What are we doing this? And then my all-time favorite is the whys. What are we doing here? Well, we're doing it. Why? Because of this. Why? Because of this. And because of the game. They keep asking why, and you keep answering questions. But I mean, that's kind of the kid's role. They're learning. So they're asking. And the kid's almost programming you as the parent to just answer. You're just the all-knowing, all-seeing, everything for that kid. Answer. I know you see me plenty of times with the kids that we coach and the kids that are around me. They'll ask me a question, I answer the question, then I turn it back around on them with a question. And usually my questions are very directed on them trying to problem solve what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and I mean that physically and emotionally, for them to be able to process something for the next question or answer that comes back. But I'm trying to basically make them problem solve almost all the time when they're asking a question.
Yep. It's easier not to do that.
Oh, it's so much easier. I don't know if you had anything else on that one. I really almost I almost see it as like not my mission, but my responsibility to make them problem solve.
Well, I mean, you can even go further than that versus just answering questions. Like I said, it's easier to just answer the question and move on. I get in those modes where Harper's just rapid fire and you're just like, go. We've got so many things to do. But I even think about, there's so many times I have to try to tell myself to slow down and let her put her own shoes on, or figure out how to do something around the house, or help in some capacity, or think through things on her own. Or she'll be like, I have this problem. It's like, okay, what can you do about it, instead of just fixing it for her? Because as a parent, it's so easy to just fix it, especially when they're little. And then when they're little, they get bigger and then they don't try to fix anything. And bites you in the butt. But I mean, that is like a whole added level to all of that.
Well, I mean, you got 2 minutes to be somewhere. You got to get going because you're late, because we have everything just stacked on top of each other.
And you're tired of nagging the entire morning
Exactly.
for your kid to get their clothes on and their stuff together.
Yep. But I know you've seen me with Harper when she starts doing those crazy questions, and of course I turn back a question on her, and it's hilarious because she almost is like, I'm not talking to you anymore. Because why is this way? Well, probably because of this. Now, do you think that's actually appropriate for that scenario or something or whatever?
Yeah, she hates it.
And she's just like, no, and just kind of walks off. But I mean, I like it because you can see that little brain working. That wait a minute, what did he say? Wait, is that right? Is that wrong whatsoever? But I mean, I think the ones I like more though is when we're sitting with the like the U12 and the U14-year-old girls when we're coaching, and they're over there and they're just now getting into like some of the, you know, things where they're starting to mature and starting to understand things a little bit, and they've been told this way of how life is from their parents the entire time, and now they're starting to think a little bit on their own and more of that questioning. And so just kind of hearing them say stuff and me kind of going like, oh really, is that exactly how it is? Everybody's like that? Or you think everybody works like that or something like that? And just watching them go, never even thought about that. Or when I've got this problem or whatever, and they're acting like I'm just going to be able to go, oh yeah, just do, and it works. But then I turn back and I'm like, what does it feel like you're doing? You know, what is your, where's the hitch at? What do you feel when you're doing this? I don't know. How do you not know? You know, but and people can say that's not very good to me, but I'm not going to be there every time. Nobody is going to be there every time. They've got to figure out what they want to do on their own. And if you don't spark that, then you'll never get that. And I mean, I think we see in some of the stuff that we do all the time in large groups of people, I see it all the time. 20-some-year-old kids, 18-year-old, some kids, whatever, you know, walking with mom and dad. I don't even know if they would know how to pay for stuff right now. I mean, they just like turn, they're like, money. And you're just like, oh no. How's that person ever going to understand buying a car, you know, doing a car loan, credit card, house payment, fixing something at the house? I mean, just all of those things that are stacked up that they've never had to ever think or worry about or do anything because we're just providing constantly. What is it that kid's learning?
You want like an answer for that?
Well, you could answer. You could,
I didn't know if that was a rhetorical question or.
It was both.
Oh, okay, cool.
Was it? You're basically teaching them that they call somebody when the bulb burns out.
Pretty much.
You know, or
Google it.
Yeah. My light won't turn on. Change the bulb. Oh, that didn't work either. Pay your electric bill. Oh yeah, probably should do that. I don't know. It's just I understand how easy it is to just do it, and it gets so frustrating watching like a 4-year-old try to tie their shoes. I mean, especially when you're running late, and you've been asking them to put the shoes on for 20 minutes,
and they don't want your help anyway.
Exactly. I get it, but if you don't, just okay, yep, over, and pull through. There we go. All right, let's go. If you don't do that, then they'll just learn you're just going to take care of everything. I mean, dude, one side the kid's training you to just take care of them, and the other side you're training the kid that you will. Where does that stop and where does that end? I don't know.
Yeah, because in some degree you do need to be there to take care of them up to a certain point because you're the parents. So you have to be able to tailor where that is and where they should be able to be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
That's ever-changing line, and it's hard, and it's not the same for every kid because some kids are better at certain things than others.
Yeah. Okay, so moving right along, now you got your kid's starting to enter into grade school, so I'm sure you're getting a little bit of that. How's that one going?
She's super independent anyway, so she's just like, I got everything, Mom. I don't need your help. Yet, like I said, I've got to hound her every morning to get dressed and brush her teeth and take care of stuff that she doesn't want to do because it's not as fun as the thing she wants to do. And yeah, we're learning about consequences a little bit. She cracked me up. She got in trouble for talking at school and she lost recess. And she told me, she's like, my teacher wouldn't let me have recess. I was like, well, were you talking? And she's like, yes. And I was like, well, did you learn a lesson by that? And she's like, I learned no lessons by that. Like, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Good talk.
So,
I mean, I don't know how to help you from there.
I was say, did you follow that up? So you're gonna miss a lot of recesses from here on out?
Pretty much. I was like, okay, well, if you keep talking when she's talking, you're gonna keep missing recess, and I'm not gonna say anything to her about it because you're not following the rules. And she's like, I don't know. Like,
yeah, but I wanted to talk.
I know.
Yeah, no, I think of a little bit of like, we see a lot of the stories of, you know, like this is getting a little more into a little bit older than that, but we know it started from there. I mean, we got the stories on what some people think is appropriate, not appropriate to be doing in schools and teachings and whatever they're going to do. I mean, that's a lot of geopolitical type of stuff and everything like that. And then we got some of the ones that bother me is some of the stuff that we're seeing now, and especially in like the high school, college level, where they're protesting and doing the stuff like that, which, I mean, I'm okay. I mean, you can protest you want, but I mean, I just feel like some of them seem a little misguided. It's almost like we set up each generation to almost be extremely resentful and not liking the next one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got a lot of the baby boomers right now that are fully retiring, getting out of the, you know, they're getting into later stages of life, and if you talk to them, it's like the whole world's ending. And nothing's going to be as good as what they did, mm-hmm. which is, I mean, they went along, they had a lot of changes in their lives. I mean, it was pretty wild from World War II, you know, into World War II, all through the 60s and 70s and 2000s and all the craziness that's gone there. But that does not mean that there can't be an immensely amount of more changes that are going to happen in the next lifetime. I mean, there's reports that they have stuff written down from like the 1900s where they're just talking about how we've reached the pinnacle of civilization. There'll never be able to be anything that makes things any easier in life in like the 1900s. And it's like, yeah, you didn't even have electricity. So, I mean, it's funny how our minds almost constantly get there. Like we can't even envision that next step.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I just worry a little bit because, I mean, you see some very angry people, and I wonder how that, we obviously are teaching them somewhere on that. I mean, I know climate change is a big one, and I get it. I mean, I've been doing some of those changes, some of those things to be able to make those less of a deal for over 10 years now. I've been a firm believer in that kind of stuff. But as far as just like trying to force changes that don't make sense, I have a hard time with. And then the one I really just can't stand, though, is like, well, it's been the baby boomers that they caused this problem. I'm like, they didn't have an alternative. So what? There's no empathy there. There's no like, well, they didn't know any better. You know, they hadn't came up with those ways to be able to study that. They didn't have the knowledge to be able to go through. We didn't have the decades of research and points and everything like that to understand that. There's no understanding both ways. And so the baby boomer generation is super defensive, and the other one's super angry. And it's just like, we got to find a way to teach some of this stuff in a way that can get a more positive result.
Shoot, just be able to teach people to have a conversation with open-mindedness and not necessarily have to agree, but be able to actually talk about stuff.
Well, I mean, we get a lot.
That would be awesome.
We get a lot with what we do. I mean, for the vegans and vegetarians. I mean, because we sell meat, and I mean, there's, of course, you get multiple different levels of where that is. I mean, some people it's climate change. Some people it's, you know, the killing of animals. And some people it's, you know, bad for your health. I mean, there's multiple different ones.
Just even sustainability in general. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I know you've seen me multiple times in those conversations because I actually kind of respect everybody's point on there. If you're a vegetarian that you absolutely believe in killing any animal is just the worst thing on the planet, even though the entire planet is some animal killing another animal, but that's where you want to stand, I'm fine. I mean, we've done vegetarian and vegan meals and do what we can to supply those type things. I mean, we're more respectful for that on what they want to do. If you're a carnivore diet person or something like that, I can hook you up there. I mean, that's your belief. I respect you for whatever you're doing there. The climate one, I mean, we sit there and we do as close to the way it's been for thousands of years on all the ranching and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, we're trying to help out on the climate change as well. So, I don't know, but we still get people that just absolutely come up and just almost like say I'm the grim reaper of the planet because I'm selling meat. And I'm just like, don't buy it. I don't know what to tell you. Mm-hmm. So, that one's interesting. But I the one I come back on is, what is it that we're doing with these kids that are making them turn that way? I mean, I think life would be a whole lot better if we're kind of more in a, how can we solve a problem? How can we believe in the better part of people? Like they probably didn't know or realize that they were doing this kind of stuff. What kind of thing do we need to tweak to make that happen?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know that I have a good answer. I do know, like, you know, growing up, being in a very liberal part of the country, there were a lot of times that my teachers would say stuff or argue stuff in class like it was the truth, and then go home and talk to my parents about it, and they'd be like, okay, but like, what about this point? Or what about this point? And argue the other side. And I was like, oh, okay.
See, I think I respect your parents for basically trying to bring up the counter side of things.
Yeah. And so that was always good growing up, being able to like, okay, just because my teacher's in a position of authority doesn't necessarily mean they know everything. It doesn't mean I need to act like they don't know anything, but they're not the be all end all on information. But I remember, like, even in college and stuff like that, having a whole lot more dialogue in classes that were more, okay, we're going to debate both sides of this issue. And it was a conversation like, okay, what good points do we have? What arguments don't make sense and you can't use because they're not logical? Like, we don't, like, we throw out all kinds of illogical arguments, and it's like, that has nothing to do with even the main point. Kind of lost all of that.
Yeah, I don't feel like we do that as much.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you've kind of even heard me in some of the games or practices where we're sitting around, there's conversations where I even kind of brought that whole thing up, where, I mean, there's pretty much a side on every argument. On everything that may be an issue, there's a reason behind that. And those people believe that wholeheartedly. And you can say that's just crazy that they would even think that, but they have a reason behind it. Mm-hmm. And most people, for the most part, a person is pretty smart and they can usually figure stuff out on their own. And they've probably been, from what their search history and everything like that, they're probably being fed that kind of information. They probably don't even know if it's right, wrong, or indifferent because they're seeing it on multiple different places.
Or, you know, I mean, their culture and experiences show them that that is the best solution. I mean, I've lived in one of the most liberal parts of the country. I've lived in one of the most conservative parts of the country. And same issues that people believe totally opposite things about, but very passionately about, and they have good arguments on both sides. They have a lot of areas where it breaks down, but based on their experiences and where they've grown up and the things that they've seen, I can totally see where they got to that reason of why they believe that thing.
Yep.
But it's like, unless you travel around, those people can be so removed from everybody else, they cannot even imagine why someone would believe the opposite of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can think of, like, a good friend of mine that lives in a place where, I mean, there's one that's really, you know, conservative and one's really liberal. And obviously in the world we're in now, where we have the websites and all that kind of stuff, same story. You can look on both their computers and it will be like, it's hilarious. Like, the story is almost completely different, but it's reporting the exact same thing. And the problem we ran into is that we just don't seem to ever sit down and say, does that even make sense?
Yeah. Well, that's what's crazy is I took a logic class and she would literally give us news articles from both sides and be like, pick apart what doesn't make sense in this article and has nothing to do with the factual evidence at all. Mm-hmm. And you could do it on both sides throughout, like, the whole thing. There was, like, nothing left.
Yeah. I don't feel like we're teaching that. I don't feel like we're projecting that. I know my mom and dad really made me think about kind of stuff when we did that. I mean, when we get into conversations, we would, you know, they would basically be almost devil's advocate on every side.
Yeah.
And I know you see me do that all the time with people. Mm-hmm. Because I think it's hard to realize sometimes, because your mindset is your experiences from this tell you this, so you should do this. Mm-hmm. If anybody does anything out of that, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
But this person could have completely different things that'll make them do like the exact opposite. It makes total sense to them. And it's almost like we're mad at them for doing the complete wrong thing when it's just like, nope, you have two options here and both of them can work.
Yeah. Well, another thing, I mean, people just don't know how to research anything anymore.
Well, we just Google.
Just Google, but if it's like, oh, I like that the thing is saying this or this makes sense, we don't look, where did they get the facts at? I mean, you can twist statistics to say whatever you want them to say. Being in the world of statistics, I know that.
You've seen me do that on stuff.
So if that can happen and news sources aren't necessarily always going to be credible and show illogical arguments, how do you look at that and how do you break it down and how do you go research and how do you find out where the truth of the numbers even are?
Mm-hmm.
There's an art to it, but most people don't want to take the time and they just like that one source is and they just trust them for whatever reason they want to trust them.
Well, it's usually a confirmation bias.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of think that it should be that way and you find something that does that, so you go with it.
Or it sounds good. It's like, oh, that would make sense that it's that way. Yeah. But is it actually? Because there's a lot of times that things sound like they make sense and they don't actually work that way at all.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I was just thinking like me. There's tons of things like make sense with me, but doesn't make sense whatsoever. Ever. So, I mean, all of these are interesting questions, and I'm not going to sit back and act like I had the perfect parenting or whatever model, but I mean, these are the things that I try to basically press on the kids that are around me. I want them to be able to question rightly. You shouldn't be questioning authority necessarily. I'm not necessarily saying everybody needs to rebel and go crazy, but I mean, but you can ask the questions correctly. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've seen me literally ask umpires in games that we've seen people kick out because they asked them a question, and I have an ability to be able to ask them about the call they made so that I can justify what's going on, and nobody does that because everybody's too hot. They get too mad, and I'm just like sitting back, hey, was that because of this or because of that? And, you know, it's just the way you present it that they're like, oh, you're literally asking. No, I'm literally asking because it didn't make sense to me, but I need to be able to ask it to you that you won't get offended. Mm-hmm. And we've kind of almost lost that art. And I don't know how, obviously something we're doing, we need to change to make it work. I wish I had a great solution on that one. All I can do is maybe make them do whatever I can to make them second guess whatever they've been told in a respectful manner. And it's kind of a tightrope to walk on that one.
A little bit of an art.
It's a little bit. At what point do you just kind of start being like, nothing is real, you know, or whatever? Yeah. So I mean, you kind of gotta watch out on that one. Next thing you know, you'll be in all kinds of conspiracy theories. So.
Thank you for watching. Kate and Nevada hope you've enjoyed this show and found it useful and empowering. If you have any questions or comments, please contact them at kinetics.com. That's KNETICX.com. They're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well. And please write a review of the show. Kate and Nevada appreciate hearing the feedback, and they welcome your reviews, and your word of mouth will help others learn how to feel better and be better.